a show that tackles the big issues affecting the BVI and the rest of the Caribbean. Searches for answers to today's big questions and gives viewers a unique perspective on developing stories. Follow the big story with me, Kathy Richards, only on GTV. This show is brought to you by the National Bank of the Virgin Islands, Cyril B. Romney Turtola Pier Park, NV Salon, Nail Spa and Barbershop, Tisley Cross Deliciously Smooth Cider, and Digicel, simply more speed, reliability and entertainment.
Plug into Digicel Plus and get even more entertainment with Disney Plus included. The best of Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic all in one place. Whenever you want, plug into Plus to enjoy Disney Plus and much more with a home fiber bundle. Sign up today. Digicel Plus.
This is The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this edition. We consider this edition a very special one. It's one of a celebration. It's one of education. It's one of a motivation. Before you get a clue of it, I want to introduce to you my guest today, Mr. Temulji Hughes. We call you TJ for fun. It's the short for who can't spell Temulji.
That's exactly what it is.
It's a pleasure to have you on set, Temulji.
Thank you for having me.
And we know, like I just said, this is a special one. It's a happy one. It's one that we want to roll down and laugh and rejoice and celebrate and give God thanks, because it's 2 years that you're saying hallelujah, thank you Virgin Islands and people around the world for your prayers, for your words of encouragement, for your support. I have beaten the fight and I am going on.
Yes.
I've won that fight against cancer.
Yes.
I saw your Facebook page, your Facebook post just the other day, reflecting on, what we're going through, your thoughts back then 2 years ago. So we're going to take some time and we're going to go through this because we want to motivate, we want to educate, and we want to encourage persons, to take stock of, your life. Check up this body that God bless you with. Let's go back 2 years ago. Take us to the beginning of things for you.
2 years seems like a very long time now that I think about it. But for about a year, I would say, my body was going through changes and I never really understood why. The doctors didn't really understand why either. I had lost a lot of weight. I'd become extremely jaundiced. And I just looked a mess, to put it simply. And the doctors didn't understand why. They initially thought it was gallstones. So I went to have gallstones removed, only for the doctor to then go in and see that there were no gallstones. But they were seeing a mass. Then the COVID lockdowns happened. I was hospitalized for about 2 weeks because I was jaundiced from that January of 2020. So this was now in August. So I've been jaundiced for quite some time. And then I was then airlifted out of the territory to Broward Medical Health in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And going through a series of tests, long story short, on September 11th, the doctors came back and they found out that I indeed had stage 4 cancer.
Stage 4?
It was stage 4. It was stage 4. Stage 4 cancer.
Explain to our viewers what stage 4 means to doctors, to the medical specialists.
Stage 4 means that you basically don't have any hope. Most people who have stage 4 cancer, it's the end of it for many persons. But through a lot of positive thinking and just hard work and really just going through the motions of trying to survive, I think that's what ultimately allowed me.
Tell us what went through your mind the moment they said, because I know that you would have understood prior to being diagnosed what stage 4 meant. What went through your mind immediately?
I didn't think that it was stage 4. I thought, before finding out, I thought it would have been around a stage 2, 1 or 2 easily. But then they said stage 4, and I can't say that I had an immediate reaction of a death sentence. It was a sense of calm almost. I heard it, I said, okay, and I immediately said, how do we beat it? Because for me, I just couldn't die. I didn't see myself dying from this, and I immediately remained positive throughout the experience because I knew that I just had much more to live for.
Who were around you at that time?
Well, it was only my mother and I in Florida. So it was my mother and I in the room. She went immediately quiet. She didn't say anything for a few minutes, and then she just asked me, "What are we going to do?" And then I said, "We're going to beat it." And then the journey continued from there.
Being able to be told something that for in the medical field means this is 50-50 or even worse. For you to be calm and say immediately to yourself first, we're going to beat this, means that you would have had to be a person who inculcates a positive mind thought throughout your life, even before experiencing. Tell us about your personality even before this that would have contributed to you holding on to the positive side of this. I can beat this.
It's always for me, if you're brought to it, you can get through it. That's always been my mindset. I'm not a quitter, and honestly, my motivating factor, funnily enough, I didn't want a COVID funeral. I did not want.
But we could have.
I did not want any protocols in place, so that in the back of my mind, subconsciously, I did think, what is a funeral with just 20 people? No, for me, that really helped. You can laugh about it now, but that helped me. But really though, I always had things that I've gone through in life, and it always has to get worse before it gets better, and that was just the worst for me, and I really thought that it had to get better. And then I had stents put in to sort of drain anything that may have come up while undergoing treatment. And they put plastic stents in instead of metal stents in. And once I came through it, and once I found out that I was in remission, I asked, and I had to get the stents changed, I asked, why didn't you just put metal stents in so that I could continue on?
Yeah.
They said, usually when we put plastic stents in, to be honest with you, it's because we don't think that the patient will live.
Now I can't laugh.
Yeah, it was, and I stopped, and that really put things into perspective for me, because for whatever reason, the doctor said no, but honestly, God said yes.
God said yes, and that brings me back to something more personal to me. I have a daughter who is, it will be 5 years now.
5 years, yes.
It's coming from 2017 to now.
5 years.
5 years. Wow.
And I remember seeing that for you on social media.
Yes. And I did not even know then, because now you're saying it comes back to me, that, when they did put stents for her, it was plastic. I did not know about plastic and metal. My mind was nowhere there. But I recall after she would have reached to a certain level, the doctor said, we need to change the stent. We need to put a more permanent one. That was plastic, and we need to put the metal stent. Now, it's really hitting on me that, for them, they would have given up on her, because for her case it was a situation where they found that type of cancer for the very first time in a child her age. That was something that was found more in elderly people. So it was like a trial and error in her treatment and care. Wow. Thank you, Jesus.
Sometimes you just have to,
Yes. But that process, I would have seen my daughter, but you would have felt it in person. Those many days and nights that you had to be going through different tests, going for chemo, going for different X-ray, MRI after MRI, scans after scans. Tell us about what that was doing to your emotional psyche during that time.
I would say, firstly, cancer is a full-time job that you do not get paid for. It was excruciating pain on many days. Your body just sometimes did not cooperate with you. If you watch movies, you'll see people going to the infusion center for a few hours to get their chemo treatment. For me, my treatment would have been a week. So I had to be checked into the hospital for a week because my regimen was just so gruesome. It was 24 hours straight for a week of non-stop chemo, different medications. And sometimes your body will just give up. Sometimes you just feel like you want to give up. Sometimes you're just there, 2 minutes you're feeling okay, and then a minute later, literally, you just plummet.
It might be bad to say it this way, but it's sometimes like when a woman is going through menopause.
Not that I have any idea about that, Kathy.
This moment you were good, and next moment is just a total mood swing, and I would have seen that with my daughter. So I could imagine now she's excited, Mommy, yes, I'm ready. But by the time that needle reaches you, it's like flat, don't want to do anything, and it takes encouragement. Who were there by your side through this, or you had to be there because it's expensive to have people around you at the time when you was going through, because whether or not you're going to be in a private or a semi-private or in the open, it all tells on the pocket. Who was there through all of those processes with you?
Well, my mother was there every step of the way physically. She traveled with me. She took the time off work. It was 9 months. The entire process was. So she was in Florida with me. But again, I had family and friends checking in constantly. I had the good juju, the good thoughts coming through constantly to just let me know that they were thinking of me. I wasn't always able to respond or mentally able in many instances to just take on, because I had to check out in order to focus sometimes on just the task that was ahead, the finish line that I had to cross. So that for me, knowing that they were there supporting me in the background truly helped. But my mother was there physically through it all.
And how did the financial aspect, some people just don't understand it.
You do not understand
it. How you made it?
Well, I'm paying for a house that I do not live in. I will put it that way. It is legit a house that I do not live in. Cancer is expensive. Luckily, the National Health Insurance, NHI, they did cover their portion, but again,
it was a drop in the ocean. It was literally a drop in the ocean. But let's talk now more about prevention. We very often we hear talks about, oh, you need to go do your checkup, or you should do that, and most reluctant to do checkup are men. Talk to your men folks.
To be honest, my journey is not anyone else's journey. To say I was lucky to arrive at stage 4 cancer and beat it, that may not be the case for some men. I would encourage you, the earlier you catch it, early detection does save lives. So I would encourage anyone who is watching this, to just, if you know your body, you do know your body, and once you see those changes, yes, it may be extremely scary to hear those words, you have cancer, but you find the strength somehow, some way, to beat it once you truly have that support system. But finding out earlier is always better. Once you feel those changes, you see the changes, if something seems off, just go and ask a question to a doctor. They may not themselves have the answer sometimes, but the ultimate goal is always to find out what's wrong.
And even if you go, you do your checkup, at that certain age ranges, you go for a certain a period, between a certain period, you find that feeling that you get when you hear, okay, Miss Cathy, everything's okay. That joy you feel to hear that. Think about it, knowing that you are clear, because you're not only going to find something wrong, you're going also to know that things are good. So it's very important to go and do those checkups. And how have you been faring since you won that fight?
I still have to stop and process sometimes, and then persons remind me. Random people would see me, and sometimes I forget.
Literally.
That did happen, yes. But it's humbling, and it's a constant reminder of the men and women that would have gone before me, because ultimately it was their moments, or their, how do I put it, them going through that experience. Doctors and the medical profession would have learned something from them, to be able to try something different for me. So it is the men and women who have gone before me. Yes, they would have not survived or had the same fate that I did, but there is something comforting in knowing that they died so that I could live. And the other men and women who will go after me, they will have life because something went right with me, so they know that works. But there's a greater purpose. There's always a greater purpose when I think about it. I am really the happiest person alive. You cannot get to me, because when you face death, nothing ever really gets to you. So I just try to enjoy every moment, embrace the small things, get excited about the big things, because there was a time when I wished that I could just walk outside and feel the sun.
So you have an appreciation for the sun that burns your skin.
Yes.
You have appreciation for the rain that wets you. You have appreciation for the traffic that you see flow. I can only imagine. But while we know it's something that you now overcome to a greater stage, are there precautions now that you still have to be taking?
Yeah, I still do maintenance therapy, so every 2 months I still have to go and get a touch. It's not exactly chemo, but I still have to go for some treatment. So I have to do that for 2 years. I had since being in remission, so I'm still on that treatment. So every 2 months I still go in and get that done.
Yes, and I know that for sure, because it's very the same thing for my child. For 2 years she had to, and then after that 2 years they extended, you got to go another 2 years, and then you're in another 2 years. It's like, okay, but the beauty about it is to see that you would have won, you are strong, and you are moving on. What we admire about Temulji is that you've returned and reintegrated, and even a stronger way. You are a youth leader, president with the Rotaract Club of Tortola. You're doing community service. You have your life back and being grateful. In this moment, as we wrap up, talk to people your age. Talk to people who have fear factors. Talk to people who are complacent when it comes to their health care.
I was 27 when I found out that I had cancer. That is not on the agenda of any 27-year-old anywhere in the world. And in that moment, once I found out, the trajectory of my life, I thought changed forever. But I think it's in retrospect, it has just been another layer to who I am as an individual. It is something that I'm able to reflect on in the hopes of inspiring someone else to not give up their fight. I know in the Virgin Islands, even when I go for treatment, I see individuals that are going through it, and I can easily remember when it was me. And it's easy to just offer them a word, because you never really know what someone is going through, especially when you're fighting for your life. Even reintegrating back into society was a challenge for me, because here it was that I had beaten this disease, and I often questioned why me. I had survivor's guilt. I questioned why me, because at that time I saw so many other people dying from it. So I really questioned why they did die and I was allowed to live. I felt guilty almost for surviving. And you go through that experience, and with time things changed, and I ultimately saw, or am every day seeing, the purpose of my life, and going through different experiences that expose me to being an influence in at least one person's life. It doesn't have to be a whole host of individuals, but at least one person. That's always my aim, to inspire at least one person, to allow them to not give up. But young people especially, I would encourage them to listen to their bodies, know their bodies as best as they could. When something doesn't feel right, or something doesn't look right, it's always best to be in the know and know that everything is okay. As you said, it's not always going to be something is extremely wrong. It could be just that it's right, it's okay. But be in the know, because the earlier the better. Again, I would say that I was lucky. I survived stage 4 cancer, but you don't want to allow it to get to that point, because my luck and your luck
same. We can go Creole on that one. Same.
Yeah. So I would definitely encourage them to listen to their bodies, know their bodies. There are resources available. The Virgin Islands Cancer Society. We have persons in the community who have gone through cancer. They're shoulder to lean, and you can ask me a question. I'm always willing and ready to answer any questions that anyone may have. But we have people in the community that have gone through it. We have resources available for us to glean from. So I would encourage everyone to listen to their bodies. If something isn't right, as I said before, try to find the answers.
Awesome, TJ. I am so happy that you agreed to come share your story, try to give some education, some motivation to others who, may have or may not have gone through similar situations, because we all need each other at some point. The part that is aroused a little feeling with me is when you said that you didn't want a COVID funeral. While the first reaction for me was a burst of laughter. In the back of my head, it was like, oh my dear, I can only imagine that extra layer of grief. Those persons who would have lost their lives, not only to cancer, but to COVID and all the others, where they could not have had the usual traditional style funeral of the Tom, Dick, and Harry coming to pay their rights. And so while I would have laughed at that moment, in this moment, I want to say our heartfelt condolences and our love to those persons who were not as fortunate as you and their families. Again, continue to share your story. We celebrated 2 years, TJ.
2 years, Kathy. 2
for
years.
my daughter, 5. I continue to do what you do, and I want to thank you for taking time out to tune in. And remember, listen to your body. Make that check with a doctor. Can't hurt too much. I want to thank you so much for joining us for this edition of The Big Story. I'm Kathy Richards.